people do if they want to grow their glutes. Now, I actually genetically have no glutes, okay? So I genetically have 0 and I've had to build mine. Yep, I'm not genetically blessed in that department at all. So thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're new around here, my name is Jasmine. I film a lot of wellness, bodybuilding, a bit of everything, and I am documenting my full off season. I've been in the gym for about 15 years, but that's not just me, and that's why my YouTube channel documents all of that. But today's video, before we get into it, please make sure you give this video a like and a subscribe, because I'm uploading every single week on Saturdays at 10 a.m. So we are going to be talking through my glute day, and I thought I would do a breakdown and a blueprint for the exercises which I recommend most people do if they want to grow their glutes. Now, I actually genetically have no glutes, okay? So I genetically have 0 and I've had to build mine. Yep, I'm not genetically blessed in that department at all. So how I would start every single glute day is definitely through a kickback. Now, why do I program this in the beginning? I program this in the beginning because it's so important for me to make sure that I am activating my glutes beforehand. Now, if you see me turning to the side, it's because I'm watching my video, so I can actually make sure that I'm talking through the cues. Now, for me, I have a very strong glute max. Now, this kickback variation, you can do many different variations, is targeting my glute max, which is the meatier part of the glute. If you didn't know, the glute has 3 heads. You've got the top glute, the side glute, and then the bottom glute. So for me, targeting that element of my glute is important, but in future videos, you'll see what I specifically need to target. Now, starting with a glute activation or a warm up will get that mind to muscle connection firing so that you can really engage those muscles before going into a big compound such as a hip thrust or anything like that. So when I program for my clients, most of them have some form of glute kickback in the beginning of their glute day, because I just see such good value in it, and I see a positive correlation with them developing that mind to muscle connection. And you're talking to someone who was quad dominant for many years, right? So I've had to develop that mind to muscle connection of using my glutes instead of my quads, and a kickback is a great way. Now, you can see my tempo here. I see clients over and over again rushing through their sets, and I did for years. I have seen the most amount of growth when I have decided to slow down my movement. So I am holding on to 2 handles here, and I'm really trying to reduce the amount of momentum going through the motion of doing the kickback. So I'm pausing at the top, and I'm also pausing at the extension. I'm trying to make sure that you fully understand the cues so that you can implement this into your finishing that particular movement. I think the next important staple for every single person to grow their glutes is the hip thrust. Now, barbell hip thrusts, they are so important. Machines are great. There is a time and a place for machines. I have a machine programmed, but for myself, I really take pride in a barbell hip thrust with proper form. Now, yes, this is quite heavy, and arguably I could probably drop the load, but now pausing at that bottom and pausing at that top, the amount of clients I see time and time again, they do too big a movement or they exaggerate the movement. It should be such a small but effective amount of range of motion for yourself so that you can really target the glute muscles. Now, if you have a stance that is correct, you should see that my feet are shoulder width apart. They're not too far forward so that I'm getting hamstring, and they're not too far back so I'm not getting too much quad. They are targeting just my glutes. Now, making sure that I find the best connection to my glutes when I take that micro pause at the top. That is so important for my barbell hip thrust. Now, I do 1 heavy set and 1 lower set. I used to do 3 working sets, but with recovery, that is what I would suggest most people to do, is 3 working sets. Try and stay at the same weight. If you need to drop the last set, then that's absolutely fine. The next movement we move on to is your single leg press. Now, You need to remember when you put your feet at the top of the platform, you are biasing your glute. If you put them towards the bottom, you are biasing your quad. So here I have put my foot, I am very tall, 5'7.5", at the top of the platform so that I am targeting my glute. I am taking a pause when I feel the knee hit my chest, and then I will go up. Now you can see the control in the movement, and everyone's range of motion for this particular movement is going to be different. So for myself, I know that my left side is weaker. So that is exactly why I start on my right side. Start on my right side, start on my left side. I know that I need to start on my weaker side, probably due to overposing, overuse, but that is exactly the motion, slowing down the movement. So you think 1, 2, 3, pause, 1, 2, 3, up, and really focusing on that mind to muscle connection to the glute. If you've not already gauged, you need to develop that mind to muscle connection. So what single leg work is so important because it will balance out any muscular imbalances which you have within your physique. So implementing a single leg press with a glute bias, with it being higher up on the platform, will enable you to make sure that you can be biasing that glute. Now, the one way you can target the glutes in the lengthened position, I believe it's the lengthened position, please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but is a barbell RDL. Now I find this extremely difficult, and that's why I keep it in. For me, I am thinking about my tempo work. So I have a bend in the knees because I want to target my glutes. I want to really make sure that I am slowing down the movement. So I'm thinking 1, 2, 3 down and 1, 2, 3 up. I'm keeping my back flat, chin tucked, bar close to the body. I'm thinking about all the cues I go through. My feet are just shy of shoulder width apart, and I'm really focusing on, for myself, the bracing. The bracing makes such a difference to my RDL, and that is something that I have seen a massive amount of difference. Now you could see how I've set up the platform here so that I can just walk in and out, and I find that the most easiest. I do wear a belt and straps to make sure that when I'm on my working weights, I can be as effective as possible. Now, what are the fundamentals for a glute day? I would start with an isolation, such as a kickback. Then I would move into a barbell hip thrust or some form or variation of that. And then I would do some single leg work. You don't have to always do it on an incline. You can do a single leg work for your glute on it's almost like it's parallel. And then I would finish off with some variation of a stiff leg deadlift or an RDL to really, really target the glutes. I do 3 glute days a week. So we need to take into consideration that this enables my recovery capacity to work at its optimal level, but also it takes into consideration my needs. Now, in future videos, I will be doing, if you'd like to see them, a specific glute day for what I particularly am focusing on. And yes, this is what I'm focusing on, but I see holes in my physique, and I'm not afraid to say that. I can see a massive hole within my glute, the top of my glute. I think it's called the glute med. I need to really, really train that, and I will be documenting all of that on YouTube to make sure that I can bring up the holes in my physique that I feel I needed to be brought up. But if you enjoyed this video, please let me know. It was short and sweet, but I felt like it was needed because I get a lot of questions on my Instagram, especially if you're not following me over there, go follow. But I get a lot of questions on my Instagram to ask, how did you grow your glutes? Because I'm not genetically blessed at all. I've just had to work extremely hard. There are other elements that we need to discuss in a future video, such as eating at a calorie surplus, training intensity, volume, frequency. And if you want me to cover any of these, let me know. But I very much look forward to speaking to you guys soon. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope to see you soon.